Act to amend the Central Bank of the Senate and the Committee of the Whole considered the report on a bill for an act to amend the Central Bank of Nigeria CBN Act LFN 2004 Bill 2023 and approved as follows. Long title as recommended, clause 1 to 2 as recommended, short title as recommended, explanatory memorandum as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Leader of the Senate, third reading.
Permit me to lead the debate on these very important bills, which seek to amend the 2022 Supplementary Appropriation Act to extend the implementation year from 30th June 2023 to 31st December 2023 respectively. The bill was read the first time today, Wednesday 24th May. Not today. Saturday 27th May 2023. Your Excellency, you will recall that the National Assembly extended the implementation of the 2022 Supplementary Appropriation Act from 31st December 2022 to 31st March 2023. This was to allow full implementation of the budget, especially in light of the 2022 supplementary budget approved on December 2022. The extension had allowed MDAs to utilize a large appropriation of funds released to them. However, significant amounts of funds remain with MDAs and will require a further extension to be fully expanded. Given the critical importance of some key projects nearing completion, requesting a further extension of the expiration clause in 2022 Supplementary Appropriation Bill and the long title and explanatory memorandum is expedient to avoid compounding the problem of abandoned projects, given that some of the projects were not provided for in the 2023 budget. I therefore urge my colleagues to give the full support to this bill to allow full utilization of capital releases in order to help reflect the economy, while I move that the two bills be referred to the Committee of the Whole for close-by-close consideration.
In what the leader has just presented in the lead debate, probably we should have had a closed session to explain, because this is not a normal sitting day. This is a special session. I apologize for that. But essentially what we are trying to do here is we have passed the Supplementary Appropriation Bill, and it was signed, it's an act, and the date of implementation lapses end of June. But there has not been releases at all. And majority of what is in that appropriation act, Supplementary Appropriation Act, are roads and bridges that were destroyed by the annual flood that we had in 2023, largely, and 2022. So we felt, together with the House, that since releases may start from next week, it is impossible that 819 billion that was provided in that supplementary appropriation could be utilized between now and end of June. And of course, we need the roads to be fixed. We need the bridges to be fixed. It's already late in some parts of the country. It has started raining already in most of the southern states, and if we don't hasten it and the rain takes over, even to reconstruct or rehabilitate those roads and bridges may be near impossible. So essentially that's why we felt we should have a special session today so that we're able to pass it. The House passed it on Thursday this week. And what is expected of us is we pass it Wednesday. Okay. We pass it along with the House, and then the releases will start immediately so that the implementation of the supplementary budget will now be implemented, and we hope that that will give comfort to many parts of the country where the roads and bridges were destroyed by the flood. So I apologize for our inability to hold a closed session. I was just in a hurry at the time. I hope that the apology is accepted. Any contribution, please?
I was sorry for my dressing because I was at the airport heading for my village when I received the text that there was an emergency. First of all, Mr. President, with all due respect, I didn't see anything urgent here that would not have waited to Tuesday, because some of us were already determined to go to our various businesses. At any rate, I want to say that the passage of the supplementary budget, I think we are only recycling this. There was a time when this same issue came here and senators protested. We don't have to follow what the House of Representatives do. And we are lucky that some of you are here. We might not be here, but business is, government business is a continuous thing. Let's allow the other senators who are elected to come and do this thing. And furthermore, anything that we didn't do 6, 7 months, 8 months ago about our road, we cannot do it in 3 weeks or 4 weeks. This is the honest truth. Secondly, Mr. President, I saw that the passage of this Ways and Means were agreed for 5%, and now it's 15%. I don't know how, where, and how we discuss this, and I don't know whether it has been discussed in the assembly, so in the chamber. So I think these two things are of concern to so many of us here, and people have been voicing it on the ground. So I felt I should just voice it out on this.
Well, thank you. Let me say that if we can do something now, we don't have to wait until next time. What we have said here, this is a very serious emergency for us in the country. And you recall that in our matter of urgent public importance, we raise issues like this. Actually, somebody can raise this kind of thing, that any day spent is lost. And I believe that what we have is for us to make progress with this. Let them go and start implementing. But let the approval be given. So while I take note of your concern, but I want to assure you that there is nothing else but the feeling that time is of essence. And we can't wait for any long time, because government is continuity. Government is continuity. When they start implementation, let the new administration come and take over. Any comment?
This is something that we need to do, agreed. The implementation, the releases for this road is very important. There's no doubt about that. And as a responsible house, there's the absolute need, rather it is incumbent on us to take actions that will impact positively on Nigerians. And this is one of them. This is a lot of sacrifice that we have done to come back here. A lot of people, like Keita was his way to London, like he said. I told you last night, myself and Senator Philip were in Akwa Ibom. Abamoru, I had to convince him to leave Benue at 5 a.m. Today to be here. Ditto for other senators who have traveled from other places to come. We were in full support of the extension, Mr. President, but you know that certain things come with rituals. And one of them was the executive session, which is a ritual that Mr. President has not performed. We believe that we will support this. I don't think there's any person who will oppose the extension because there's nothing about it. But Mr. President, the rituals of executive session that you've not performed is a problem. That is where the problem is. Otherwise, I, as Senator Suso, I'm representing Benue Northeast, is in full support of the extension. Keita is not opposing the extension, but he said that you have not performed the rituals, Mr. President. That is the only problem.
Distinguished colleagues, a bill for an act to amend the 2022 Supplementary Appropriation Act in order to extend the implementation year from 30th June 2023 to 31st December 2023 and for related matters 2023 second reading taken. Leader of the Senate. The bill is referred to the Committee of the Whole, Committee of Supply, sorry. Then we go into Committee of Supply.
Distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate resolve into Committee of Supply to consider the bill.
The Minority Leader.
To consider this report, I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate resolves into Committee of the Supply to consider the report say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. That clause 1 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor of the short title stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor of the explanatory memorandum stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those ayes have it. Leader of the Senate Plenary.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate revert to plenary.
Those in favor of the motion that the Senate reverts to plenary for the chair to report progress say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, the Senate in the Committee of Supply considered a report on a bill for an act to amend the Supplementary Appropriation Act 2022 and approved as follows. Long title as recommended, clause 1 as recommended, short title as recommended, explanatory memorandum as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Leader of the Senate, third reading. At this bill be now read the third time, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate. A bill for an act to amend the 2022 Supplementary Appropriation Act in order to extend the implementation year from 30th June 2023 to 31st December 2023 and for related matters 2023 third reading taken, and the bill is passed. Thank you very much. Leader of the Senate. Next.
Mr. President, the Nigeria Act Amendment Bill 2023, SB 1125. Motion for the suspension of Rule 78, subsection 1. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate do suspend its rules 78, subsection 1, in order to read the bill for the second time.
Leader.
My respected colleagues, permit me to lead the debate on the bill, which seeks to amend the Central Bank of Nigeria CBN Act to increase the total CBN advances to federal government from 5% to maximum of 15%. The bill was read the first time in this chamber on Saturday, that's today, 27th May 2023. The very essence of this bill, my respected colleagues, is to enable the federal government meet its immediate and future obligations in the approval of the Ways and Means by the National Assembly and advances to the federal government by the Central Bank of Nigeria. This amendment is very consequential and it needs the support of all of us. This is to enable the federal government to embark on very important projects that will inflate and rejig the economy. I therefore urge you all to support the passage of this very important bill. I so move.
Any comments?
It's just maybe a question, and I don't know whether you can provide the answer, because this amendment, if we read the second 1, 2, 3, the third passage of the lead debate, it says that the very essence of this bill, my respected colleagues, is to enable the federal government meet its immediate and future obligation in the approval of the ways and means by the National Assembly and advances to the federal government by the DCN. This looks to me like a one-off. Now, are you amending the CBN Act to reflect a one-off, or is it going to be something that will be happening all the time? Because this is an unusual happening. So it is just for us to enable the CBN advance monies to the federal government that we are doing this. I don't think the incoming government will spend this amount of money without approval. I expect that this will happen. So how do you amend an act for a one-off? That is the question, Mr. President.
But let me also say that it's not a one-off thing. We are not doing an amendment just for a particular action now. This is for the entire period that government will need this. If at any point government doesn't think it needs it, then it can be amended. But at the moment, it's not an attempt to just give a CBN a leverage for a one-off thing. Senator Betty Apiafi.
Ms. Betty Apiafi, I represent Rivers West Senatorial District. Mr. President, I want to agree with what Senator Suswan has said. 15% for ways and means is quite high. Again, is it for this government or for the incoming? And then, of course, the issue of securitization still comes in. Because if 15% is taken, I don't see how it can be paid off within the stipulated time of 1 year that is in the CBN Act. So are we keeping silence on the issue of securitization, or we are just hoping that the governments that will come in, or the further borrowing or further utilization of ways and means will be extinguished within 1 year? That's just my question.
Mr. President, I don't think looking at the amendment, the intention is for it to be a one-off. More or less, it's, I think, an attempt to give the government more leverage when it comes to this temporary financing that Ways and Means provides. If we look at the last dispensation, I think between 2015 and 2022, Ways and Means spending grew up by 7,000%. So given that this is how the government has been run, it's obvious that leaving it at that 5% will only create fiscal problems. So I think it's just to create some more leverage for the government. In the first place, the issue of the repayment period has not been changed. So whether you increase it to 5% or 15%, the Act still specifies that that amount has to be paid within that financial year. My only concern, Mr. President, is the fact that I thought we'll also be looking at amending Section 38, subsection 3, subsection B, that talked about securitization of Ways and Means, because essentially we gave an approval some time ago for the 22 trillion Ways and Means to be securitized. But I think the CBN Act expressly prohibits securitization of Ways and Means. So if we don't also look at that act with that section with the with view to amending it, we may have embarked on an exercise in futility. It's very, very strict because Ways and Means, Mr. President, is not a financing vehicle. It's just meant to act as a temporary stopgap for revenues. Most of the tax receipts come in December. So if you know you are getting 2-3 trillion in December from companies, then you can raise ways and means in June, July, knowing fully well that it will be clear by December. So we have to be careful not to create an impression that this is another window for government to finance itself or finance long-term projects, because that was what happened in the other time. We found out that almost everything was going under ways and means, from salary bailout to all sorts of things. So, but I think the issue of the 15% is quite clear. It is not a stopgap. It's not a one-off thing. It's meant to just create some more leverage. Looking at the fact that for the last 7 years, this ways and means has been the ceiling has been exceeded by multiple folds. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Senator Betty. You raised a vital question, and of course, the points raised by Senator Ibrahim Hassan Hadeja responded adequately to that. But let me say that what is crucial again is oversight, because you are giving government more space, and what that means is government can utilize the opportunity there. But I don't think we should allow the kind of thing that happened from 2016 to 2023, accumulating this kind of ways and means without the checks that are necessary. So I think it's just giving government more space, but that also tasks the legislature to work hard to ensure that there is no repeat of what has happened. Senator Oba.
My distinguished colleague, Senator Albert Bassi Akwabono, is, Mr. President, what you have said is totally correct. But let me equally add that even the next National Assembly, in the cost of processing the annual budgets, and we are increasing benchmarks, such increase should also take cognizance of the need to provide for the funding gap for even ways, within the fiscal year. We don't just come increase benchmark and it's about projects. We should always be looking at ways, because every businessman requires an overdraft. It's a stopgap measure, and like you rightly pointed out, the 15% is maximum. It could be 5%, it could be 6%, it could be 7%. But let it not be in the course of all this, we have to come and start approving again. But when the next National Assembly is looking into the annual budget, and at the point of increase of benchmark to accrue revenue, provisions must equally be made to accommodate the expected expenditure of government fallback on ways and means.
Very much. Can we second reading, please? Those in favor of this bill will now read the second time, say aye. Those against, say nay, say aye. Leader of the Senate. Clerk of the Senate, sorry.
Other matters connected there to 2023, second reading.
A bill for an act to amend the Central Bank of Nigeria Act Cap C4, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, and for other matters there to 2023, second reading taken. And the bill is referred to the Committee of the Whole. Leader of the Senate, Committee of the Whole.
Distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate resolve.
Those in favor of the motion that the Senate resolves into Committee of the Whole to consider the report, say aye. Those against, say nay, the ayes have it. Clause 1 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay, the ayes have it. Those in favor of the short title stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay, the ayes have it. Those in favor of the explanatory memorandum stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay, the ayes have it. Those in favor of the long title stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay, the ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
For 15 minutes to come back.
Distinguished colleagues, we need to adjourn for 15 minutes only to enable us come back and pass the votes and proceedings. Otherwise, this special session wouldn't have any meaning, because it's when we pass the votes and proceedings that this thing can now be taken to the executive arm of government. So I urge us to just stay around for 15 minutes and then we pass the votes. So those in favor, okay, whichever one, but will not be. So those in favor of the motion that the Senate adjourns for 15 minutes, say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. The Senate is hereby adjourned for 15 minutes. Distinguished colleagues, before we adjourn, let me thank you most sincerely for this demonstration of duty, of sacrifice, of commitment, of patriotism, and indeed love of country. We have done a very good job to enable this government and indeed the next government to continue to work for the Nigerian people. And I want to thank all of us for sacrificing our weekend to be here. Before I call for the leader to move for adjournment, let me, on behalf of all of us, congratulate the children of Nigeria, the children of the world. This year's Children's Day is today, 27th of May. And the theme is investing in our future, means investing in our children. Any nation that does not invest on its children and the youth is a nation that is bound to fail or to stagnate. This National Assembly and indeed the future assemblies will always continue to identify with Nigerian children and will make very positive and progressive legislative interventions in favor of enabling our children to grow in an environment that is clement enough for them to receive education that will prepare them for the future. So once again, I congratulate the Nigerian children, but let me also make a special remark on educating the girl child. Because even among the children, the girl child appears to be more disadvantaged, especially in some parts of the country. To educate a girl or a woman is to educate the entire nation. And therefore, we must at all times give priorities to educating the girl child, not to the exclusion or discrimination of the boy child. With this, let me once again commend all of us for this sacrifice. That decided to do a job. The back bench. Those in favor of the motion that the Senate do adjourn till Tuesday, the 30th of May, 2023 at 10 a.m. prompt, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.